fact, and it's about the SETI Institute Artists in Residence program, which helps facilitate an exchange of ideas between artists and scientific people. Bettina is a local artist. She's also the director of the SETI Artists in Residence program, and she's also the owner of the Visual Voice Gallery, as well as a former RASC Montreal president. So without further ado, I'll let Bettina do the presentation.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this very hot Wednesday. Can I share my screen? Let me see. Yes, I can. So I'm just gonna get a desktop. That's not what I wanted. Okay, whatever. I'll do that. Oh, wait, wrong slide. Here we go. Okay. Well, as I was mentioned in the introduction, I've recently been appointed the director of the SETI Institute Artists in Residence program. So as soon as I put that on Facebook, Kareem shot me an email via Facebook and said, Bettina, do you want to talk about it? Of course I want to talk about it. I've been with the SETI Institute for a number of years, since 2016, as a researcher in residence. So what I thought I'd do tonight is talk a little bit about what the SETI Institute does, a bit of its history, its mandate, and then give you some examples of artists who have been working with us over the last 10 years. Our program is 10 years old this year, and we've had 18 artists. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just highlight a few that I think have done particularly interesting work. So these are the progenitors of the SETI Institute. John Billingham was one of the men who put everything in motion. I'm sure you know Frank Drake and Carl Sagan very well. In fact, now where the SETI Institute is housed, it's called the Carl Sagan Center. And Jill Tarter was integral to the launch of the SETI Institute. And she's still a trustee, and she was, until recently, the director of the SETI part, like the listening for extraterrestrial signal. And the SETI Institute actually was initially part of NASA. It came out of NASA Ames. It was John Billingham who pitched the idea of SETI, of looking for extraterrestrial life and signals to NASA Ames, because he said that Ames's role was cutting edge research in space exploration, and that they would have that kind of vision, and it would be a good fit for them to, to take this kind of step, to look for something that is still very much science-based, but a bit more speculative. And it was a really good fit for Ames. So they agreed to host the SETI division of NASA Ames, though it needed a little bit of help from JPL and Caltech. They initially, the SETI Institute sort of, and it still kind of does draw its researchers from several universities and science institutions. Actually, that still happens today. And the fundamental direction and mandate of the SETI Institute is very much informed by the Drake equation. I'm sure if you're at all interested in astronomy and astrobiology and exoplanets and life in the universe in general, you will be familiar with this equation that Frank Drake came up with in 1961 while he was working at the Green Bank Observatory in Western Virginia. And it is not designed to give you, it doesn't give you an answer, but this is a conceptual framework where you can plug in variables that can give that huge question, is there life out there, and is there intelligent life out there, some sort of structure. So it basically goes like the number of civilizations in our galaxy with which communication is possible. This is what we're looking for. And then we're going from the largest variables, like the average rate of star formation per year in our galaxy, and then and then it's fractions, right? The fraction of those stars with planets, average number of those planets that may develop an ecosystem, fraction of those planets that succeed in developing life, the fraction of those planets with the life that may develop intelligent life, and then the fraction of those planets with intelligent life that may develop interstellar communication, so they can actually talk to us. And then finally, the average length of time such civilization may survive, so they can continue to send us communications. And it's what's very interesting that since 1961, when Drake first came up with this equation, our understanding of these variables have very much changed as science has progressed. We're thinking back to like mid-1990s, nobody really thought there were any planets outside of a solar system. And I remember being in arguments with people who said there is no evidence for other planets. And now that idea seems ludicrous, as we have at this point confirmed over 4,000 exoplanets. And those are only the confirmed cases. Speculation is that the actual number of planets is vastly higher by several order of magnitudes. So whatever variables you decide to plug into this, this equation, you come out either with the result where you say it's more likely or less likely, but it is a really good way to start to think about this very big question. And this is really, yeah, the sort of one of the guiding principles of the SETI Institute. If you're looking at the part of it that really is looking for alien signals, but the SETI Institute is more than that. Right now, it is housed actually in Mountain View, about 4.5 kilometers away from the NASA Ames Center. It is now a non-profit organization. It was founded in 1984. And so its mandate now is to explore, understand, and explain the origin and nature of life in the universe and the evolution of intelligence. So the definition of what the SETI Institute does has evolved a lot since its beginnings, where we were, looking for alien signals. It now looks at what life in the universe may be, what is actually life, how do we define life? We don't actually have an official, universally agreed upon definition what distinguishes life from non-life, prebiotic life or not prebiotic organisms or things. How did life start on our planet? What is the future of life on our planet? And what does intelligence even mean? Sometimes I look at Twitter feeds. I don't know what intelligent means even on this planet. So it is a good question. You may want to check out the SETI website, seti.org. And there, I just took a screen grab from the 6 sort of largest research areas of the SETI Institute that touches on how stars and planets are formed. That's really important if you, looking later on at exoplanets. Astrobiology, which is kind of my favorite part of SETI, that really looks at what life may be beyond Earth. Is it carbon-based? Is it not? Where may it hide out, either in our solar system? Can we go there? What is, is it microbes? Is it something else? We, of course, in all astrobiology, and this criticism has been made once in a while, especially in the beginning of this research field, you're studying something that you have no evidence that it exists. So in our search for alien life, we have no evidence right now for alien life. So the way you look for alien life is actually starting on Earth. So what can the Earth's climate and geology tell us about extremophiles and conditions here that have started life? And then we extrapolate from there. Of course, planetary exploration is a big part, because we need to actually go to places like, let's say, Enceladus or Europa or, Mars, and sort of, start poking around and collect samples and do sample return missions, so we can actually ascertain what the chances are of life in our solar system. And like I mentioned, exoplanets, that's a huge field right now, very cutting edge. More and more probes and satellites with observatories are dedicated to this search. And, last but not least, are we alone? This is the basically the starting point of the SETI Institute, this question of, is there maybe a signal out there that we can listen to? Though it's not just in the audio realm, there's also laser SETI and all kinds of interesting things that happen in that research area. So go on SETI.org, and I won't go into all of this right now because it's a lot. So go and poke around by yourself. This is the Allen Telescope Array. So this is basically listening for hopefully an alien signal. And that was my first introduction to the SETI Institute when I joined as a researcher in residence. It was actually linked to my MA studies, where I did some data collection, interviewing women who worked in science or still work in science, and interviewing them about their experiences. And I interviewed several women at the SETI Institute, and I was sort of folded into the Artist in Residence program, and became researcher in residence there, and responsible for coordinating with the SETI's Artist in Residence archive, which is housed at the Nevada Museum of Art. So what we typically do when we have new artists in residence come in is we take them to the Allen Telescope Array, which is like this really cool place in Northern California. It's in the mountains. You are not allowed to bring your cell phone because it would interfere with the work that is happening there. And you can see these this huge array of telescopes. It's a beautiful spot. So here we have in the center David Newman. He was one of the incoming artists. He is a choreographer and dancer, but he also does other things. On the right is Charles Lindsay. He's the one who launched the SETI Artist in Residence program together with Jill Tarter. He was there for this couple of days stay at the ATA. And then we have one of the researchers who worked there, the technician, who actually is responsible for moving the array of radio telescopes in the direction of where we want to pick up a signal. So David had this idea that he wanted to dance with the radio telescopes. And then, oh my God, I'm totally blanking on her name. I want to say Larissa, but that is not her name. So the technician said, this is a great idea. And what you're seeing there, maybe at the bottom, you notice it, she just took a laptop and like a 200-meter long cable and just plopped her laptop down in the middle of the array and went to David's like, okay, which way do you want this thing to turn? And it was, so she just dedicated one of the telescopes and one of the dishes and just moved the dish around. And I have video of this, but it's somewhere stored in my archive. This was a while ago. And David also is still developing the film or choreography. But it was so cool to see that interaction between a research scientist and a dancer, this sort of spontaneous combustion of like, let's make a choreography, let's have this happen right on the spot, and all these ideas were developing. And we were all, watching what was happening, and there she is with her controls. And it was just so cool how she just immediately said like, oh, this is a great idea. And there's Jill Tarter. We were all just sitting there at the array and watching David dance. And it was just very, very impressive and just so much fun. And I asked Jill, it's like, why did you even agree to have artists come to the SETI Institute? Because when we're thinking of art and science, they seem to be so diametrically opposed. Why do you want to have a bunch of crazy artists run around, you know, and just, you know, bug everybody. And she just said she really loved the idea because the scientists help, and the artists help the scientists think of their research maybe differently, because artists ask unexpected questions of the scientists and maybe put it in a different context and, you know, connected to the human condition and meaning making. So it becomes more than abstract science, and we're connecting it back to what it means to us and as individuals and as a society. And also the artworks connect the science to a different kind of audience. There are a lot of people who love space and science, but there are a lot of people who kind of don't really connect with that field. So having artwork, you reach all these people who love art, and they kind of surreptitiously get connected to all that science through the art. So one of the, actually the first artist of the Artist in Residence program was Charles Lindsay. And it was his carbon project that really started it all. So Charles had this, he loves technology, and he loves scouring eBay for equipment. So he had picked up this, and I think this was like sold off from NASA actually, a phenomenal scanner. And he prepared some slides using carbon, particle, and oil suspension, and scanned them at super high resolution. And the reason he used carbon is because we are all sort of carbon-based life forms. So he wanted just to investigate, like, what does carbon look like? And by blowing them up, he sort of playing with scale, he created these really fantastic sort of abstract images where you don't quite know whether you're looking at something infinitesimally small or something the size of a planet. And I think this is one of the wonderful things that he does, is that he plays with scale, because in astronomy, very often scale is a problem. We're talking about, you know, thousands, millions of kilometers. We're talking about light years, and this is so often beyond human comprehension. And what artists can do is, you know, sort of visualize it and give you a visceral feeling of a kind of understanding of what scale may mean to you. So, you know, I love this installation piece. It's just really, imagine you're in there and the artwork is so much larger than you, and sort of it's an immersive experience. And I also love that he has a lot of these sort of backlit, and this, just that image, like that is in the light box there. I mean, that could be anything. That could be a claw of a creature, or it could be a mountain range with star trails on the back. But really what it is, it's carbon. It's, you know, it's us. It's what we're all made of. So Charlie showed Jill the series as an example of, like, this can be done, you know, this is the art science intersection. And Jill was totally on board. So 10 years ago, we launched the Artist in Residence program that is designed to facilitate collaboration between artists and scientists. And the artists are specifically chosen because they have a background and an interest in science, and specifically the kind of questions that, research questions that the SETI Institute is working on. So one of the artists that, one of the first artists that I met when I came in, so with that cohort, is Scott Kildell. And he was working with a scientist who was specializing in asteroid and meteorite impacts, and especially the patterns that are created as the meteorites come down. That's what is called the strewn field. And what Scott is really interested in is data. He loves data. He says data tells a story. Actually, he used to work for Autodesk, and they also have like an art science research facility in San Francisco. So Scott just took all that data and he created these images, this visual representation of how one meteorite breaks up and just splatters all over the Earth. Looking at all the coordinates, and then turned these into sculptures. So what he wanted to do, and these are some of his tests. So he was there, in the lab, testing different ways of creating these patterns in different materials. This was with like a water pressure machine. So he chose very specific stones for these sculptures, and they meant to resemble the kind of stone or geology that is present at the location where the meteorite came down. And they're very heavy pieces because they're solid granite and sandstone. And so it's a very interesting way of just doing data visualization. And the collaborating researcher was like really thrilled with the series of works. So we had, after the first cohort came in, actually a small biennale called Making Contact, where I also took the title of this course, this talk, to show the outcomes of the first couple of years of the Artisan Residence program. And it was shown at the New Museum in Silicon Valley. So these are a couple of shots. This is Charles Lindsay. He actually likes to do this installation. I told you that he enjoys scouring the internet for machines and anything that is kind of scientific looking, and he makes these sort of scientific or imagined field stations. So this is part of his work. This is Martin Wilner's work. He does actually drawing, and aside from being an artist, he's also a psychoanalyst. So what he did was he would pick one of the researchers, and for 1 month, every day, they would send him an email about something important that happened today. So Martin's brief to the researchers was simply, send me an email every day, tell me something that you think was important, and can be, in any style you want, as long as you want, you just send me that. And based on what they'd written, he would make every day a drawing. And you can actually go on his Instagram feed. He posts every day, and he also likes to intersperse his feed with quotes. But basically, every day you have this, and you see that kind of sectional. It's based on a calendar. So I'm just gonna just roll back. You see how this is like a calendar layout, but all the drawings, even though they're drawn individually, they then connect into this larger narrative. And he says, because time is nonlinear, he has all these kind of lines and connections about, we're doing something today that connects to something maybe we did a week ago or we thought about at another time. So these diaries ended up very interesting. You kind of, because they're only pictures, you don't really know what was going on in their lives, because some of these emails, they were really personal. Sometimes they were about the research, but also sometimes about my personal stuff. So obviously he's not going to, you can trust him, like this is all set in confidence, but by converting it into a drawing, he creates these very enigmatic images where you just, what the researcher is working on, and then you can kind of guess at what their month was like. And what I really liked about it is that it really foregrounds the researcher as a human being. So often we just look at the data they generate and the journal articles they write, and the scientific outcome of their work. But this was a really interesting chance to actually look at researchers as people. Another really cool project that came out of the first cohort of the Artist in Residence program was the Somnium project by Marco Pelgam, Danny Basso, and Carl Yerkes. They worked with data from the Kepler mission that looked at exoplanets, and they turned it into a sound and light installation. And now I'm gonna see if this works, because there's a YouTube channel that I had already lined up. Okay, so we're gonna just have a look at this. Small screen.
Somnium is a multimodal installation based on the exoplanet data gathered by the Kepler Space Telescope. Somnium has physical, video, and audio components. At the heart of Somnium is a glass round which has been laser etched with a photograph taken by the Kepler Space Telescope. The image contains hundreds of thousands of stars. Holding the glass is a robotically actuated microscope which looks at the laser-etched surface. At microscopic scale, individual stars can be resolved as unique conchoidal fracture patterns. The robot rotates the glass and moves the microscope in a random walk within the Kepler field of view. Live video from the microscope is projected onto the surrounding walls. A computer determines the precise location of the microscope in real time and queries the Kepler database for data about nearby star systems. Over 4 years of photometric data are then converted to 1.5 seconds of sound and played through the loudspeakers. The name Somnium echoes the title of a book by astronomer Johannes Kepler, published in 1634. In it, Kepler imagines what it would be like to travel to other worlds populated by new forms of life.
Okay. So, oops, where's my presentation? Hang on. It is somewhere. There you go. Okay, so I really love this idea of turning data into sound, into images, into a physical object that you can look at and just imagine and understand that raw data in a different way. And it sort of connects a little bit to what Scott Kildell was doing with the strewn fields, but this is a more sort of complex approach to data and what it can tell us and how we can connect with it. So what's happening right now is we have a new cohort of artists that came in last year, and one really exciting project that is in development right now is the Earthling Project. That is a collaboration between Felipe Perez Santiago and Jill Tarter. They're working on this together. Felipe is a Mexican composer, musician. He's internationally renowned. He has a huge discography. Sometimes I only think of the word in German, sorry. And he is working on creating an opera, a sound piece that is based on the vocalizations of ideally every human on this planet. It's a very ambitious goal. So you can go to this website, earthlingproject.com, and it kind of outlines what Felipe is working on. The idea is to get people to record their voice. He's working on an app. It's actually going to be finished, released very soon in the next couple of days. I think Felipe has just sent it to Apple for approval, and I'm on the team of beta testers, so I'm going to, unfortunately, will have to sing into my phone. I hope the Earthlings will excuse me for that. And so the idea is that people will, from all over the world, make recordings of things like folk songs or lullabies, something that is really connected to your culture. And all these are going to be collated. And then Felipe is going to, in phase 2, create a symphony out of this from that huge audio database that will be available. And what Jill said, like the reason why she loves this, is because it's like a mirror of humanity. Because so much of the questions, are we alone and is there life out there? Our search for other life is also a search for ourselves, to understand ourselves better. So, you know, Felipe is creating this huge audio portrait of all of us, of all our voices on this planet. I think it's just such a poetic and beautiful concept. So you can go to earthlingproject.com and make your vocal submissions very soon. As far as I know, we are launching this fall. And so this is not on the website, and I'm telling you this now, so you've got a little bit on the sort of the inside track. So I'm just going to say a little bit. Your vocal submissions may make their way off planet. All I'm going to say at this point is go and check the Earthling Project a little later on, or just keep following me on Twitter, because I will spill the beans when I can. But again, super project. I'm just so excited that Felipe is working with us. So we have right now 6 artists, and we're soon going to have a 7th one coming in. And what is really fantastic about our SETI artists is that they work in lots of different disciplines, and they're from all over the world, and it's a really diverse group of artists. So Jordan Holmes, he's also known as Dexter Spitz. He is a spoken word artist. He does sort of spoken word with music. And he's also a materials engineer, like I was just going to say Virginia Tech. I'm just looking at my notes. He's initially studied material engineering at Virginia Tech, and now combines that kind of knowledge with his spoken word work art. So I'm very excited to see what he's coming up with. Xin Lu, she's Chinese, but she is also the arts curator and the Space Exploration Initiative at the MIT Media Lab. So she does really phenomenal artworks. She has recently sent her wisdom teeth into space, encapsulated in a specially designed glass sarcophagus. She's got really cool ideas, and I'm super looking forward to what she's going to be doing. Jen Bourbon has been with us for a little while, but she's working on a project that is very complex and requires a lot of engineering. So she works with text and textiles, and she writes poetry on the nanoscale on biomedical silk. And then you can read these words written onto the silk with through the light of fiber optics. So that's a really cool project that works on nanoscales and coding and so bioengineering, but her background is in poetry. So again, that's a really cool fusion. Alfred Darlington, also known as Daedalus, he does electronic music, and he's a DJ. And he teaches at Berkeley and Boston electronic music and instrumentation. So very cutting edge in sound art. So I'll be chatting with him very soon about what he wants to work on. We've covered what Felipe Perez Santiago is doing. He's actually located in Mexico. And last but not least, Zainab. I just realized I spelled her name with an A. Zainab Al-Hashemi. She's a fantastic artist who does these gorgeous huge site-specific installations. I think this one where with the portraiture, this is done with Swarovski crystals. Because of her background, a lot of this is very intricate geometric patterns, sort of exploded in 3D. She's located in Dubai. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what she'll be doing soon. And we are, the SETI Air program is collaborating with the Montalvo Art Center. That is, I would say, maybe half-hour drive from the SETI Institute in the mountains. It's absolutely stunning. It has been an artist in residence and art center since its inception about, I want to say 100 years ago. I need to check my dates. They have sort of this beautiful building where they actually, this is the original building and that used to be the residence, but they now have transformed it into an exhibition center and concert hall. So they do a lot of events there. And at the bottom of that mountain, which also you see behind there, beautiful woods with trails where people can come for nature walks. And in front, there's these stunning gardens. And at the bottom of the hill is our residences, other buildings where they're actual artist studios. And when I was last there, Felipe was there with like a whole audio suite and a guy who's like playing cello, and they have a kitchen there and everybody eats together. It's a really fantastic center. I'm so delighted that Montalvo, they've just started partnering with us. So we can now send our artists there at least for like a little while, maybe a month or so, for them to get started with their creations. If you want to find out more about the SETI Institute, we do a lot of outreach. So I've subscribed to the Big Picture Science podcast from the SETI Institute. I recommend you do the same. It's very cool. It's about SETI research, but it also touches on other areas, like, you know, of course, they've done a lot of stuff with COVID-19, but also about, you know, critical thinking in science and, you know, biology and science and society questions. So really, you know, asking big questions. And it's a really, really super fun podcast. Of course, there's SETI Talks, and now everything is happening online. SETI Talks, you know, I used to see the events calendars like, oh, why am I not in Mountain View? This is like so amazing. But now, you know, there's a lot of downsides to COVID, but the upside is that we can now all go and participate and see the live streams. And they have also fascinating subjects and really fantastic guests. And of course, the Facebook page has a lot of events there as well. There's a virtual movie night that's happening, for example, tomorrow night. So you may want to check that out as well. And so that's it. Thank you very much. I want to thank you with this last little picture. This was taken at the solar eclipse last year in 2017. That's actually on your left there, Bill Diamond, who is the CEO of the SETI Institute. And on my on the right is Charles Lindsay, the previous program director from whom I have taken over. And we were all in the Sawtooth Mountains waiting for the eclipse. And we decided to do this goofy picture where we were sort of praying to the sun gods to make sure that the skies stay clear. That was a year where we had a lot of forest fires, but we were very lucky, and it was an absolutely stunning event and a beautiful experience. So that's my talk. Thank you so much. So I'm just gonna see if I can stop sharing my screen. Oh, there it is. And let me know if you have any questions. I can't hear you. Whoever, David, I see you with your mic.
You can hear me now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, a wonderful, wonderful presentation. Wendy and I just loved it. It's one of the best I've heard.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's really fun to work with the SETI Institute. I mean, I've been with them now for 4 years, and you know, the researchers there, they're all really serious, cutting-edge scientists. But because of the kind of questions that are being asked, often they sort of have that extra layer of like philosophy and interest in the arts, you know, because you need a little bit of philosophy if you're looking at, you know, how the particles in the universe are entangled, or if there's, you know, life on, you know, the moons of Jupiter. Also pretty big questions. So that's also why the Artist in Residence program is such a good fit.
I particularly loved the picture at the end because our group was not very far from you. We were in Oregon.
Oh,
So we were pretty close to you for the day of the eclipse.
oh, that's so nice. Yeah. Well, if there are no questions, you can always email me.
I was wondering, is the SETI Institute, is it associated with a university in particular, or?
With the University of what?
Is it associated with a certain university or no university?
No, it's its own research center. So the scientists who are working with us, typically they will have their own labs and sort of a, you know, independent research pods. And often the PIs there will also be associated with a university. So there's a university connection there. And a lot of the research are also linked with NASA Ames, because, you know, it's like literally across the street. So so there are a lot of connections to other research facilities and universities from SETI.
Bettina, if you recall, at the talk where we talked about, we had the guest talking about the spectra, and I posted the idea of turning that into music.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm doing, I have a saxophone, which I can't play for the life of me, but I can play a few notes, a few basic, about 6 notes. And using that graph that the spectra is displayed with as it moves, and assigning the y-axis to a series of notes and just seeing where that comes out. So if it makes any sense, one day maybe I'll play it out.
That would be phenomenal. I really love that idea of transposing data into music and music into a visual form, because every time you create a different kind of understanding of the same thing, and it gives you some more of like 360 degree understanding of the thing that you're looking at, you know?
Yeah.
And it's just also so playful and fun.
I think just having you as an artist, having David as a, you know, showing us, David, you know, that astronomy is more than just a telescope. It's art, it's poetry, it's music. It's beyond just looking through a telescope. And that's just wonderful.
I love that. I absolutely love that. I'm going to write that down. So that's so good.
Excellent talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
It's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, so just, you know, follow the SETI Institute. If you like the SETI Institute, it's also a nonprofit. They will take your money if you want to donate. So I always like to do a little shout out.
Love it.
And what are there any big projects coming up, or like each artist does its own, is it her own thing? They sometimes collaborate together.
Because, you know, they're so different, and they're also so dispersed across the globe that every artist, they have their own artistic practice and their own research questions. So what we do is we talk to them about what it is they want to do and what they express certain kind of interests, and then we will pair them with a researcher from the SETI Institute. Sometimes, you know, that like it's a bit like dating. You want to make sure that, you know, they work well together and it's an enjoyable experience for both of them. And sometimes it's also more than one researcher. if there's a little bit of overlap in the research field, because you have whole teams sometimes working on the same kind of idea. And yeah, and then these guys just you know, start chugging along, and it takes about, I'd say, like 2 years typically is the typical residency, because there is so much to learn and so much to develop and installations to build and all that. Like you know, that Somnium project, you know, it's not something you do in a month, so that you know, takes a lot of research and development.
So you're a matchmaker, coordinator, and
Yes,
so on?
that's right. I'm a matchmaker, a facilitator. I check in with the artists and see where they're at and if they need anything. What I want to do now that I'm coming in as the program director is also foreground a little bit more the artists' research process and development process. So having some Facebook Live events and, you know, sort of online presentations of having the artists and the scientists talk about what it is they do, how they collaborate, maybe show some prototypes, and then have a discussion or presentation with them at the end of their mandate before we go into exhibition. So you can really connect the dots and sort of see what the discussions are like, and how you tackle these kind of big questions about life out there and what intelligence is. And you know, and we have some interesting, again, we have so many things cooking, and there's stuff now that I can't quite tell you yet, and I wish I would. But just something to connect it with AI. A residency specifically connected to AI is coming up, and we are launching that in September. So again, it'll definitely be on the SETI website. I'm pushing a lot of SETI Air content into the social media team, and the SETI communications team has been really fantastic, and they're ready to go and push us a little bit more.
Is this job very different now with COVID, or was it always more like an online type of thing?
It's a little bit different with COVID because right now we can't take our artists to the Allen Telescope Array, which is what we normally do. They can't come and visit the SETI Institute because normally, you know, you go there and you sit in the scientist's lab, and you know, the SETI Institute, it is kind of really cool because the researchers are so, they're just so cultured, you know, for lack of a better word. Like you sit in some of these labs, and you know, they have like artwork and like glass art and like wall hanging and quilts and sort of these really beautiful pictures of you know, like the surface of Mars. And it's just a really cool place to hang out, and it kind of, you're picking up on the vibe of each individual researcher just by being there. And then of course the Montreal Art Center. So all of that is now off limits and we can't do it. On the other hand, just because our cohort is so international, you know, like Zainab is not going to fly in from Dubai, you know, for a meeting. So a lot of this is all happening online anyway. So right now, it's a Zoom world, right? It's the age of Zoom, so all of this is now happening online, and it's still fine. We can still do it, and but we're hoping that, you know, at one point we can put together a real exhibition with, like, you know, objects and have people over, especially since like Jordan and Felipe and you know, they're doing performative works, so it's more interesting when you have an audience. But Felipe is, you know, like, he's doing an app, so that's all online. So a lot of these guys are using technology, so they're pretty comfortable in the digital realm. But yeah, good question.
Maybe you'll take a virtual tour from high schools and, you know,
Yeah, I mean,
over.
That could be really fun. I'd sort of toying with this idea actually because I'll be teaching online this fall, and normally we're taking our students to science labs but also onto a tour to the Musée d'Art Contemporain or to my gallery or Bell building. And I thought, why don't we just strap a GoPro to somebody and just have them walk around, right? And just do a virtual tour. And then, you know, the students can say, stop, go left, and then you just go left. You know? It's just like a video game, like a first-person shooter. And I think that could be really fun. Should be fairly easy to do. So, you know, like,
Sounds like a great idea. Do it.